Let's talk about the most versatile and underrated camera out there, DJI Ronin 4D. Just to clarify, we will be discussing the 6K version, not the 8K version, and in the video later on I'll explain why I'm not particularly enthusiastic about purchasing the 8K version. I had this camera for about a year and a half. I didn't buy it right away. This camera was released about 3 years ago, and Armando and I did video test about it. The first time I saw it, I wasn't convinced enough to buy it. Don't get me wrong, even back then it was an impressive camera with some solid specs. It had great stabilization and great image quality, but I wasn't sure if I could convince my client to pay for it. Let's be honest, it still looks a bit odd even today, but 3 years ago it looked even more unconventional. It doesn't have the brand recognition of Arri, Red, Sony, Canon. DJI is known for their drones, not for cameras. However, a year later DJI has released so-called Flex extension system, which allows you to remove the sensor and use it with the gimbal off the camera with a 6-foot cable, similar to Reality system on Sony Venice. The moment I saw the release of the DJI Flex, I placed an order for DJI Ronin instantly. The Flex system allowed for capabilities that were previously possible only with smaller cameras. Now, rigging the camera and placing it in tight spaces is not a problem at all. Unlike the Reality system on the Sony Venice, the Flex system allows the sensor to be detached along with the gimbal, enabling remote control. That may not sound like a big deal, but it is. Imagine setting up a camera for an overhead shoot in a cooking show, for example. Normally you'd have to grip the camera and spend time adjusting it to ensure it's not crooked and properly aligned. With built-in gimbal, all you need to worry about is suspending the camera above the table. You can then make all adjustments from the ground using the monitor with the built-in wireless system. Speaking of the wireless system, DJI has been perfecting their wireless connection with drones for a while. This was the first time they introduced the system with a camera. By now, everyone probably knows how good the system is. The range, the stability and ease of use, it was far superior to anything else on the market. When they started selling DJI transmissions separately, I replaced all my Teradeks. It took some time to convince my clients that system was better, primarily due to the brand perception. But nowadays, all they want is DJI transmission. To give you an idea of its reliability, if you have a shoot at a stadium, like a live broadcast event, there was never a system before that could handle it without issues. With thousands of cell phones in the crowd, wireless video usually starts to fall apart, but not with DJI transmission. I've had about 5 events like this, and the system has never dropped the ball. Returning to the camera, the form factor features an almost cable-free system. The camera, gimbal, lens, focus, LiDAR, and monitor are all powered by a single battery, the same battery used in Ronin 4D, known for its reliability and fast charging. When paired with DJI Flex system, you can put the camera body in the backpack and use only the sensor with the gimbal. You lose the force axis, but it's still a traditional gimbal that remains light and easy to operate all day long. I once worked with a director on a music video who had ambitious shot ideas. We were talking about gripping the camera to a car, putting it in a chess box, doing a tracking shot on a jeep move, moving the camera through car windows or placing it above a door to follow someone and then reveal as camera descends. These were kind of spontaneous, creative shots that would have required extra days with any other camera, but not with Ronin 4D. Need an overhead shot? No problem. I just use the monopod to mount the sensor and extend it out. This setup allows for all kinds of shots, up, down, sideways, through, whatever you need. In the time I've had this camera, I've used it on many different projects, including music videos, films, commercials, documentaries, and even live stream multicam work. I've paired it with cameras like Arri Alexa 35, Red V-Raptor, Red Komodo, Canon R5C, and I haven't had any problems matching the colors to the image of those cameras. I have a solid opinion about this camera. It definitely has its faults. No camera is perfect, but it might be the most versatile camera on the market. The range of possibility with this camera is impressive. Despite its unusual exterior, it has started gaining interest in larger productions, movies like Civil War, where a significant portion was shot on this camera. Those type of projects helped build trust in its capabilities for bigger productions. Regarding form factor, it was designed with a purpose. Besides the built-in traditional gimbal, it features a force axis that eliminates the most common gimbal problems, steps when walking with the camera. Many large productions reject gimbals due to the robotic movements, while it won't replace the Steadicam, which is still the most natural and pleasant camera move. I find that shots from DJI Ronin 4D look significantly closer to the Steadicam shots than ever before. Honestly, the moves from Ronin 4D resemble those of Technocrane move more than a Steadicam. Because it's an all-in-one package, Ronin 4D takes no time to assemble, which is one of my favorite features. You simply grab the camera from the case and it's ready to go. No additional setup required. With other cameras, you have to deal with the whole process of setting up a gimbal, balancing the camera, and connecting various components. Even basic tasks like mounting a monitor, setting up a follow focus, and running all the cables can be time-consuming. Now let's talk about the sensor. It's a full-frame sensor with 6K resolution and about 14 stops of claimed dynamic range, which I tend to believe is quite accurate. I compared this camera to Red Komodo, which has a bit more dynamic range and nicer roll-off, but the Ronin 4D holds its own very well. It records 6K up to 50 fps and 4K with a Super 35 crop at 120 fps. With an upgraded license, it supports Apple ProRes RAW, as well Apple ProRes 4444XQ, 422HQ, 422LT, and H.264. Surprisingly, there is no H.265 support, even though DJI has included in their drones for some time. The Ronin 4D has native ISO of 800 and 5000. Its low light performance is impressive, and the dual ISO doesn't feel like the dual ISO on the other cameras. The range between 800 and 5000 is very usable, so shooting at, let's say, 1600 or 2000 ISO is perfectly fine if 5000 is too much. The Sony a7S III and FX3 are known for their low light capabilities. They're known to be the best low light monsters. But are they? The Ronin 4D actually has a significantly lower noise floor up to 12800 ISO. A video by the DP Journey shows that the Ronin 4D's noise at 12,000 ISO is comparable to the FX3's noise at the same ISO, and on any ISO before 12,800 ISO, it actually has better color reproduction and detail retention. Another standout feature is its flange distance. Despite having one of the shortest flange distances on the L mount, the Ronin 4D somehow accommodates 9 stops of ND filters. This short flange distance allows for use of various lens mounts, such as REPL, Leica L, M, and Sony E mounts. Unfortunately, there is no RF mount, but EF lenses can be adapted through the E mount. Personally, I like using the DJI 17-28 zoom for its versatile range. For higher-end productions, I use PL mount lenses with the D0 Vespid primes. I could balance every lens in the set. I also use the Blazer Remus, and I think the Nisi Athena would be a great fit too. The LiDAR focus system is another excellent feature. Although it's now common to use LiDAR, when the Ronin 4D was released, it was groundbreaking to offer autofocus with manual lenses. This was a significant advancement compared to relying on lens manufacturers and types. For real estate work, the Ronin 4D has become my go-to camera. And don't be mistaken, real estate videos require high-quality hardware because they often push dynamic range to the limits. I previously used the Red Komodo, but the Ronin 4D's ease of use and stability made it such a better fit. Now for the downsides. The sensor readout options are quite limited. You only get a full frame 17:9, wide aspect ratio 239:1, and Super 35 17:9. I don't understand why there isn't a 16:9 option, which is more common and would be useful for live streaming and other projects. I've even had to skip using this camera for a specific project due to this limitation. I would also love to see the crop modes like 4:3, 6:5, 1:1, which are useful when using anamorphics, and the 9:16 would be useful too. DJI, please consider releasing an update to address those issues. These crop modes would also help to improve frame rates. Regarding frame rates, while there are various recording options, they are limited when output into the transmitter. For instance, there is no 29-97 FPS, only 30 FPS, and there is no 59-94 FPS, only 60 FPS, which is kinda bummer because those frame rates are crucial when doing live streams. The absence of H.265 is disappointing, especially since I use this codec more frequently. I hope these issues can be resolved through firmware updates. Some may argue that the rolling shutter is a problem, but I don't find this that much problematic. Considering it's a full-frame sensor, it scores 19.6 milliseconds, which is comparable to, let's say, Sony FX9's 22 milliseconds. Even the new Sony Burana is 18 milliseconds. As for the 8K version, while it's a great upgrade, I don't feel the need of the 8K as much as I need ProRes 444, which is missing an 8K version. Although it offers Apple ProRes RAW, I use DaVinci Resolve, which doesn't support Apple ProRes RAW. I think they could have included the free B-RAW instead of the paid Apple RAW. Additionally, the 8K version has reduced low-light capabilities, with the base ISO of 320 and 1600, and the dynamic range expansion mode topping out at 4000, which is 1000 less than 6K version. In the DER expansion mode, the camera can only shoot up to 30 fps, and the rolling shutter becomes 30 milliseconds, which is considered very slow, and that already can be a problem. I remember buying the Arri Alexa 35. It was very exciting, but despite being one of the best cameras available, it didn't change my workflow or contribute to my creativity the way DJI Ronin 4D has. The Ronin 4D allows me to achieve shots that would otherwise be time-consuming or expensive to create. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.